that exit, I took another company and basically more than trebled its valuation. I increased the value of that company from approximately a little over $1 million to $4.3 million in a 12-month window. And I exited that just 12 months later. So it took me quite a long time and a lot of business transactions. I've bought and sold approximately a dozen different companies now in the last 6 or 7 years. I'm going to give you a simple 6-part framework which applies especially to service-driven businesses, but it can really be applied to any business to really do what I call business value maximization. Because when you think about it, the reason why, as I understand it from what Topher told me, the reason why you're part of this mastermind program ultimately is to scale your business. But who wants to grow revenue if you can't simultaneously grow profit? Right? Ultimately, you're either trying to drive profitability, cash flow, or you're trying to build the value of the company so you can exit. One or the other, or both. I quickly figured out as I kind of transitioned from building up a company from scratch to buying and selling companies, there's a very methodical process you can go down. So I'm not going to tell you what to do here, but I am going to tell you where to look to drive the value of your company. Because sometimes when I give this presentation, people will say, well, Dan, I'm not looking to buy a competitor, or I'm not looking to exit my business in the near future. How is this relevant? And what I say is, look, if I invest and buy a company, I generally won't buy a company unless I can see that I can drive the value of that asset up. If I can't treble it within a 12 to 24 month window, I won't do the acquisition. In other words, if I can't take a $500,000 valuation and make it $1.5 million in 12 to 24 months, I won't do the acquisition in the first place. But the point to you is, if you're not looking to exit in that time or grow through acquisition, is if you don't sell your business, you buy it. Right? And I think a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people just get so caught up in the grind where we work really hard, and there's really no correlation whatsoever between how hard you work and how profitable or valuable your company, the underlying asset is. So this simple six-step process might give you some insight on how you might significantly drive profitability or the exit valuation of your company in the near future. I am glad we're on video, but I'm also being British. We've got stiff upper lip. So I might look like I'm crying on the inside. It's kind of hard to gauge the audience when you're on the other side of the planet. So by all means, feel free, well, Topher especially, or anybody, just type up if I'm either going too fast or I'm going too slow. Because other than the brief introduction, I'm not. I want to make sure that this is as valuable to you as possible. Okay. So here's your 6 steps. So first question for you. It might sound like an obvious question, but I don't think most people really consider this. What drives the valuation of the company? In other words, if I was to ask you how much is your company worth today, or how much would it be worth on the open market, you might have a number in your head, you might not. But if you do have a number, how did you come up with that valuation? How are small businesses, i.e. businesses that aren't listed, on a stock exchange, the NASDAQ or whatever, how are they valued?
Ideas?
It works the same in the US. I've only sold one. I sold 2 companies in the US. It works the same way. How are they valued?
As a multiple of sales.
Okay, multiple of sales. Okay, good. So that's one way it could be valued. How else might it be valued?
We use a multiple of collected revenue.
Okay, good. So mobile collective revenue. Any of the variations that you've seen used in the market?
A price per employee or per key employee, if they're especially in engineering.
Okay, interesting. Good. Any other references?
Asset base, if you own property, land, buildings, vehicles, all of that, and then the value of your client base.
Okay, great. So these are all good. And if you look at, the Harvard Business School, if you look in their manual, I think they've got 57 different ways that companies can get value. But as a simple overview, here's what I propose. If somebody is buying a company, like any investment, or if somebody's investing into any assets, what are they looking for? They're looking for a return on investment. So if you look on the stock market right now, like if I pull out the little app on my iPhone, and look at the stock market app, I'm going to see what's called the PE ratio. Okay, so if I look at Apple right now has got a PE ratio of 90, okay? Which basically means Apple at the moment is worth 19 times its earnings, its profits. So really, the most simplistic formula for a company valuation, even though it might be looked at different ways, is ultimately an investor saying, what's the ROI? What's my return on investment? So it's the earnings or the profit, the EBITDA, times by some multiple. So if you're looking to drive the value of your company, broadly speaking, there's only two parts of the equation that you can play with. You can drive profitability, or you can drive the multiple. And when it comes to the multiple, and have you guys heard that term before? Like when people talk about what you mentioned, multiple of revenue, but multiple of profit too. How do people decide what that number is? Should it be 2 times, 3 times, 5 times, 10 times? How is that number calculated?
Usually some kind of industry standards, like when we were in my last position, we were buying and selling restaurants, trading franchises, and it was like 18 times or 18 weeks of sales, for example. And in my wholesale business, my understanding is it's somewhere between 8 and 12 weeks of sales is a fair market value.
Okay, great. So that's a good example. Let's go with that example. So you said 8 to 12 weeks of sales. Okay. What causes? I want you guys to think about this. What would cause a company to be 8 times sales versus 12 times sales? Because that's a huge difference. And regardless of the sales figure, that's a 50% difference in the company value.
Comes down to having a strong management structure in place, typically.
Okay, yes, good. What else?
In our case, it comes down to retention of clients. And so they're usually bought over a period of time based on collected revenues, or it's a one-time payment and the original owner stays on to help manage a transition because it's all based on personal relationships.
Perfect, good. So, everything that was said was correct. Yeah, and we could list multiple other things that people are doing the due diligence to decide that each industry, typically there's a range, okay? There's a range of which kind of puts you in the ballpark of how to evaluate a company, but what dictates to be on the low end or the high end of the range, ultimately, is the reliability, predictability, and sustainability of that stream of earnings. So if it's revenue-based, which it is a little funkier, but in certain industries, like the restaurant industry, because the business model generally is the margins are relatively comparable comparable across similar restaurant types. In effect, it's just a more simple way of calculating, therefore, what's my return on investment going to be. The multiple is defined by how reliable, predictable, and sustainable that profit will be. So the reason why, if I look down right now, if I go back to the stock market app, if I look at the P/E ratio of Microsoft, it's 30 times. If I look at P/E ratio of Apple, it's 19 times. If I look at the P/E ratio of Facebook, it's worth 34 times. If I look at the P/E ratio of Google, 35. Berkshire Hathaway, 26 times. But do you know what the average multiple is across all small businesses in the US? Do you know what the average, it's fractionally higher in the US than in the UK. Do you know what the average multiple of profit is across all business categories?
Is that including all the businesses that get sold for $1 because they're miserable and want out? I would guess between 3 to 5, maybe 2 though.
Right. So in the UK, it's 2.92. In the US, it's a little over 3. I don't remember the exact number, but it's a hell of a lot less than 4 times profit. Mm-hmm. Okay, because you've got to exclude the companies that are losing money that get sold for a book. So because there's no profit.
Right. Yeah.
So in other words, why the small businesses only have 3 times multiple and the bigger companies listed on a stock exchange 18, 20, 30 times? And the answer is because the stability and reliability and the likelihood of those companies continuing to be profitable in the future are radically higher. So in other words, generally speaking, while there might be a range for the industry of say, let's say, I don't know, so I've done a lot of acquisitions in the fitness industry. So gymnasiums, indoor boot camps, that kind of stuff. The range might be 3 to 7 times profit. But what dictates it going to be close to a 7 times multiple rather than 3 times multiple? It's going to be adjusted upwards for growth if the business is trending upwards, and it's going to be adjusted downwards for risk. So here's my point. If you want to have a formula for seeking anything, you guys have probably heard this. It's if you observe what the masses are doing, do the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So, most people don't have any money, so if you apply the exact opposite strategy, you would probably yield far better financial results. Well, for me, most business owners, if they can drive the profit or drive the multiple, people immediately think about profit. So actually, normally if I'm making an investment, or if I was looking at any of your businesses today, if I was buying your company today, the first thing that I would do, which isn't sexy, but this is exactly why most small businesses fail, is I'd look at the risk. So step number 1 is evaluate your business and find out what are the biggest risks that are going to screw up the existing revenue streams. And you guys know this, like, there's nothing new here, but perhaps if this is a reminder, right? If you want to make more money, okay. I think Warren Buffett's a smart dude. Anybody know Warren Buffett's 2 rules of investing?
You never lose money.
Yep. Number 1, don't lose money. Number 2, see rule number 1. See rule number 1.
Rule number 1.
Hey, by the way, Dan, just so you'll know, I know we talked earlier about me communicating with you on WhatsApp. I don't have accessibility to that because I'm recording you on my iPhone. So we need to switch to iMessages. Or just normal text. Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so, let me know if the internet's getting rubbish, and thanks for just so you guys know what I have to put up with while simultaneously trying to be coherent with you. Sophie just said, your internet see you. It's a blank screen. We're just listening to you, but no biggie. Frankly, you're pretty ugly, so this might be a benefit. Right. So,
Yes.
here's perhaps a framework that I missed off. In the UK, there's a program called Dragon's Den, which is the equivalent of Shark Tank in the US. And one of the longest standing dragons on Dragon's Den once advised me when I was talking about an exit of one of my companies. He went, "Dan, what you need to do in a sentence is think about what a new acquirer would do when they bought your company, because they would do things to immediately drive the profitability and stability of the company. Think about what they would do and do that now." Which, if you think about it, is pretty darn smart. Because I just told you, when I'm buying a company, I will find a company that's valued appropriately for where it's at, but I'm going to look under the hood, so to speak, and try and figure out, okay, this company's currently worth $500,000, but I can immediately see how I can drive the value of this company, the profit and the stability of this company, so it's going to be worth $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million in 12 to 24 months. If I can see that upside, and I can buy it for $500,000, and that's a fair market value based on what the vendor's looking for today, I'll make the acquisition. So, play the same game with your own company. Because even if you're not exiting your company, if your company is more stable and less risky, what it means is you're less likely to be blindsided in the future by something that's going to screw up your sales and your profits. So, very briefly, what are the most common risks? Well, it's as a rule of thumb, when I make this list, anything you dismiss out of hand because you don't think it's that important is probably exactly where you need to look, right? Because the risks that kill a business are the ones that business owners neglected or downplayed their importance or underestimated the risk, right? If you think about it, why would anybody ever drive their car without a seatbelt?
Because they think they're invincible.
The seatbelts are categorically proven to lower your chances of dying in an automobile accident. But yet people drive without belts sometimes. Why do they do it? And the only reason is because they don't believe they're going to get in an accident. Which also kind of aligns itself with them, they're probably underestimating other risks, therefore they're more likely to die. More likely to be in an accident in the first place. So the first question, which if you're ignoring it or switching off, is probably exactly why life will come and bite you in the ass in 2018 because you're not paying attention, is where are the risks? Do you have customer density risk? I.e., you've got too much revenue consolidated on one customer. Do you have employee risk? Do you have systems-related risk because things aren't documented? Have you got a data backup risk? Have you got a marketing channel risk because you get all your leads from one source? Going back probably 10 years ago now, by many people's definition, I had a dream internet-based business. I had a business that sold educational courses online, and it produced about £500,000, about $900,000 worth of revenue. It was making about $300,000 net profit to me, and it had one part-time employee, and it was totally automated. And this business was printing cash, and it was sexy as hell. But I made a mistake. Even though I had thousands of customers, I had a single point of failure. And the single point of failure was the only place we generated leads was Google pay-per-click. Now, without me saying anything else, you can tell me what happened to that business.
Google changed their algorithms.
Exactly right. The first Google Slack, which cut off all our lead gen, that business was dead within 6 months.
Yep.
That happened to a client of mine who was doing, he was basically selling time on Google advertising and so on. And his pay-to-click business just went to hell overnight. Luckily, he made a huge amount of money in 1 year and he had some money to put somewhere else. Otherwise, he'd really be in bad shape today.
Right. Happens all the time. But then the thing is, the risks that you're aware of, you've probably done something about. It's the ones that you're not aware of, or the ones where you're playing down. So to give you another example of a risk, I had a business, a training company, that had, I don't know what the revenue was, about, best part of $5 million equivalent in revenue. It had loads of customers, but there was a single point of failure which I didn't appreciate at the time. I thought, I've got no customer density risk. I've got, everything documented well. I'm good. And I found out later I only had one merchant provider. I only had one company that all the credit card payments got processed through, and 95% plus of our revenues were processed on credit cards. Without me telling you anything else, tell me what happened to that company.
They went out of business.
Yeah, well, I mean, fortunately they didn't, but it caused a massive stress because we grew too quickly, and the merchant said, this is too risky. We're going to hold all incoming funds, so you can process the cards, we're just not going to deposit the money in your bank account, until we build up enough of a reserve that we feel that we're protected.
Nice.
So they went from the standard 5 to 15% reserve to the point where they killed your cash flow.
Correct. They stopped all incoming cash. Now, the only reason that business survives, the only reason, is because I had other companies that could cash flow that company. So I don't know how much money they were carrying, but they held all money for about a month, and they stopped all incoming money for about a month. So they had maybe $500,000, I don't think it was quite that high actually, all incoming cash. And by the way, we were tight on cash because we were growing so aggressively.
Were you having an increasing chargeback problem?
Yes, we were.
That's why they did that. Yeah, I represented companies that had those problems. Okay.
Yeah, of course. But I underplayed the risk. They had all incoming money. Guess how long it took me to get that money back?
6
About
months.
$500,000.
6 months.
Almost 18 months.
Oh,
Jeez.
They let it trickle while they were recuperating for themselves on their chargebacks. But they did.
Right? And if I didn't have other companies, I would have been screwed. But wouldn't it be better not to have the problem in the first place? Right? And so point number one, I've done overkill on this, but it is the most important point, and it's the one that's the most overlooked. If I was to ask you, in this room, if I said, great, you can rewind the clock 10 years, and you can undo or change any 5 financial related decisions that you've made in the last 10 years. If you have the ability to do that, how many people would have significantly more wealth, significantly more money in their bank account right now?
All of them.
I would.
All of us, right? So, and that's what Warren Buffett means. It's like, don't lose money. In other words, Sir Richard Branson, a self-made billionaire, said the definition of an entrepreneur is somebody who makes enough money to pay for their mistakes. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. But said differently, if you think about what you just said to me, if the answer to that question was yes, if you could just not do stupid shit, or said differently, if you could anticipate risks that you're taking so you don't roll the dice and come up unlucky, you're going to make a hell of a lot more money without doing anything proactively good, as an additional good, development good. Alright, so that's always my starting point. And normally when you buy a company, it's valued because there are a lot of risky elements. Great. How can you as quickly as possible make your
So Dan, just to make sure I'm following you here, because you said you were going to give us 6 steps. Is step 1 reduce your risk, and everything we've been talking about falls under that category, or are we on a different step?
That's correct.
Just want to make sure.
That is 100%. So step number 1, risk mitigation. Evaluate your company and look at where are the single points of failure and figure out a plan to eliminate or mitigate that risk. Reduce the chance of it happening at all, and or reduce the damage it will do if that occurs.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So some of you might trade with other countries, and it's probably not a big deal here, but sometimes it is in businesses. If currency fluctuation could cause a huge upheaval in your business, great. You might not be able to eliminate that, but you might be able to think about things you could do now to minimize it by, I don't know, keeping more money in reserve in other currencies or whatever. But oftentimes it's as simple as, are you backing up your database?
Right.
Right? Or are you backing up client information? Are you backing up the client's payment information? What happens if your office burns down and you're backing up to a hard drive that's kept in your office, not in the cloud? Right? Do you have key man insurance? The cost might not be negligible, but is worth its weight in gold if you or somebody else gets sick. Yeah. And chances are, if you dismiss it out of hand, it's probably not because it's not relevant, but more likely that you're underestimating the risk.
Mm-hmm.
I told you 2 quick horror stories of mine that caused me and my family an infinite amount of stress. And it cost me a lot of money. I could sit here on the phone and probably take up an hour just telling you 10 stories like that. But my stories are irrelevant. The question is, what are the risks that you don't see? Metaphorically, you're trying to cross the business road. You better be sure it's how you see where all the cars are, which direction they're moving, and how fast. If one of those hits you, you're going to get injured or you're going to end up dead. Right? So step number 1 is risk mitigation. Step number 2 is also incredibly unsexy, which is why most business owners don't do it, which is also why most business owners scrape along and never actually make any damn money. If I was to say to you, so we've discussed the multiple, the other side of the equation, the valuation of your company, is the profit. Right? If you had a company that was 10 million revenue and 2 million profit, and you had a company in the exact same industry that had 10 million in revenue but $500,000 in profit, which of those 2 companies, A or B, which of those 2 companies is worth more?
B.
If it was being sold today? Well, A with 2 million in profit or B with $500,000?
B.
So you think B, the company with $500,000 would be worth more?
No. I think she misunderstood your question. It didn't come out clearly.
I apologize. So if A's got 2 million in profit and B's got $500,000, $500,000.
That's not what you said.
That wasn't what you originally
Okay.
said. Sorry.
Okay, A. Then A definitely.
Okay, I apologize if I misspoke. Absolutely, you're absolutely correct. It would be A.
But he said half of it.
He did.
You said
He
that.
said 5.
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, but right, it's obvious, but once I clarify my poor communication, it's obvious that it's a more profitable company. Why? Because ultimately there's more margin for error, there's more margin of safety, there's more to play with. All right, good. So if you're trying to increase your company's profitability, so do you think right now how much profit you made in the last 12 months? I don't know what your number is, and I won't ask you to share, but I'm willing to bet that it wasn't as much as you'd like it to be. If I said to you, you can only do one of two things. You have to put all your eggs in one of 2 baskets. You can either drive revenues, or you can reduce costs as the route to increase your profitability. which one of those two is easier to do? And by easier, I mean it's lower risk, more likely to work.
Reduce costs?
Correct. It absolutely is reduced costs. But why?
These are things you have control over, and you can keep managing those. Whereas the revenues, you may increase your revenues, but you may also increase your costs along with them. So it leaves you in the same profitability ratio.
1,000% correct. Couldn't agree with you more. In other words, I've yet to walk into a company, and I'm going to challenge you in this room. I've yet to walk into a company where, for due diligence, where I'm convinced they are spending every penny that's going out the door is being spent wisely and optimally. Right? So if I was to ask you guys in this room, how many of you operate with a budget? So you could show me a budget for the next quarter of how much money is going to be spent in each part of the business: advertising, salaries, rent, stationery, etc.
Does that mean that we have to follow that budget? Because I got a budget, it's sticking to it, that's the problem.
Yeah, okay, all right. Well, I
Very honest answer. Yeah.
In order to be able to stick to one, you need to have one in the first place, right? If you're sat there and you're not operating with a budget.
Hang on, Dan, real quickly, because that's one of the things that we want to talk about. So let me just, how many here do have a budget that you adhere to?
Oh, wait.
Well, budget you've written out. Yep. All right, cool. We just kind of want to see what numbers we have. Keep going.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you right now, you could have run, if you run the same business, and the revenues were exactly the same in the last 12 months, but the only change you made was you had a budget that was set each quarter, so it's set quarterly in advance, and every week, you just took 30 minutes to review the budget and look at what you're actually spending and say, okay, are we on track or are we off track? That was it. I am absolutely categorically certain that you would have produced more profit than you have. And therefore that small investment of your time, called, in real terms, being conscious about your costs, would produce a better ROI. So, I don't know, and again, because we don't know each other, I won't put anybody on the spot by asking them to share their revenue and profitability, but if, say, you've got $1 million in revenue, okay? And if you, on that $1 million in revenue, let's say you made $300,000 in profit, right? That would mean you spent $700,000 on various expenses. Well, why does a company spend money? And really, it's only for two reasons. It's to get new customers and to service the customers that you've got. Right? Like if you open a new location, well, you're doing that why? Because you believe that will help you get more customers, drive more revenue. If you hire more customer service staff, why are you doing that? Because you want to take better care of customers so they buy from you again and they stay with you. Right? Or they don't refund or they don't charge back. So, okay, good. I'm going to tell you, if you're not on a tight budget, I've yet to find a company that they're not wasting at least 10% of their expenses. Right? And oftentimes, it's radically higher. Radically higher. So, in other words, if the company is spending $700,000 a year, you literally just by looking at the expenses and running to a budget, it would be very commonplace for that to add $100,000 back to the bottom line. So I said to you, all right, guys, well, here's where it gets really interesting. I don't know what your profit level was, but let's say you made $300,000 in profit, and let's say you took $200,000 of that, because that was what you took to live on, and that was your cost of living. All right, great. Well, what's that extra $100,000? Obviously, taxes need to be paid, but albeit I think Donald Trump seems to be doing an interesting job I'm going to reduce that burden, but that's another conversation. That $100,000 is disposable. In other words, if your cost of living is $200,000 a year, and that's what you need, all of a sudden, if you get an additional 100,000 added to that, which you could take, you could either reinvest it to growth, or you could dividend it out. All of a sudden, that can dramatically change a business. And this is common. So step one is risk mitigation. Step two is reducing expenses. Okay? Step number three, so first of all, does anybody, how am I doing? Does that resonate? Does that strike a chord? Or does anybody disagree with me? Because I'd love to have the dialogue. Questions, comments, thoughts?
Makes sense.
I'm good.
But there's only one thing, there's only one little thing, it's just a comment, I have to agree with what you said. It's that we expend money to invest in future growth on a regular basis. So,
Yes.
so especially from the publishing side, we probably have this person in our office who does nothing, produces not a penny of revenue we can actually attribute to her directly, but she drives a lot of our growth because of the articles and publishing that we're doing, for which we're getting into business. So that's the other way to look at it, which is, are you expending to drive growth, or are you just expending and not really being conscious of what you're expending?
Yes, I agree with you 100%, Stanley, and I think you know Stanley. Let me add what I believe to be an important caveat. And I don't know your case, because obviously I don't know your business, I don't know your this particular employee. My experience is that a lot of business owners justify spending money for growth as though all investments are equal or that it's an acceptable return. And I'm sure you are doing this, but in my experience, if I'm spending 50 grand on an employee for marketing, all of a sudden when you challenge how much is that driving, normally business owners get a bit worried, it helps, or it drives leads, it drives revenue. Well, how many leads? How much revenue? All of a sudden it becomes it's vague and difficult to measure.
Sure.
And even though it may be difficult to measure, it doesn't mean it's not worth trying, because of course the question you've got to say to yourself is that 50 grand being spent the best way? In other words, could it be spent elsewhere that would drive a better return on investment?
That's a good question.
And I know right now, Stanley, that clearly that's, that's...
We have a 3 to 1 return on her. We have a 3 to 1 return on her. For every dollar we spend, we get back at least $3.
I'm good if I'm good if well, obviously I'm good because it's your business, but I'm good if you're measuring that and you're happy that that's true.
Yeah.
And B, you are happy as that being an ROI, because of course normally when they say 3 to 1, they mean for every dollar you spent on her, we drive $3 of revenue, which is not the same as $3 of profit, right? You've got to say, well, how much you're actually doing it to drive revenue, but why are you driving revenue? Ultimately, you want more profit, even if that profit is reinvested for growth.
So we're driving $2 to the bottom line. We're driving $2 to the bottom line of the business. And then the question becomes, what do we do with the $2 after we've driven it to the bottom line? And I think that's the question you're asking. And the answer is, I don't know. I just know these gross numbers right now. I have to talk to my CFO, who happens to be my wife, and she can tell me a little more detail, because that's her job. But I do know the gross outlines of it, the basic outlines.
Good. So the one other question I would add before the question, what would I do with that $2 is, could you spend the money elsewhere and get better than a 2 to 1 return?
Good question.
Yeah, possibly if I wanted to put it into an index fund with a really low load. I mean, I'm in a business that's not exactly known for its it's explosive growth. It's pretty pedestrian in many ways. So, we could talk further, but basically, I'm in the value-added side of the business. I don't do what most of my colleagues do. So I think that's a pretty good return on investment for my industry.
Good. So, and again, I'm really speaking to the whole group. This is what I say clearly. I'm not here. I don't know any of your businesses. I can't tell you what to do. Perhaps, hopefully, I'm giving some thought about questions to ask yourself. Because if you leave this room thinking the same things that you thought when you came in, it was a waste of time. But if you leave the room, not necessarily with the answers, but with new questions to ask yourself about where could I spend money for either a higher return or a lower level of risk, for example, then there might be value. So, moving it back around, if step one is risk mitigation, step two is reducing expenses. Step three is still downsexy, which, by the way, is why it works. And step number three is retention. Or specifically, what I mean by that is retention of existing customers. What I mean is, it's not about driving new, i.e. getting existing customers to buy again. It's about stopping people from leaving. Here's why this is relevant. Most business owners, in my experience, are in love with their own baby. So that business is their baby, right? It's their child. And so they look at all of the ways that their child is beautiful, and they don't look at all the ugly-ass things that the child is doing. So if I was to ask everyone in this room a question, how many of you, in the last 90 days, have mystery shopped your own business? And if you couldn't mystery shop your own business because everybody would know your name, how many of you have got somebody anonymous who's not known to your staff to go and mystery shop and play prospect? Has anybody done that? Okay, good. One person. Okay. So, I'm sorry, sir. I've got your name, but
Right.
Hello. Did it go well or bad? Well, actually, first of all, was this the first time that you've done it in a long time?
Yes.
Or do you do it regularly?
First time in a long time.
And how did it go? Was it great and the prospect got a great experience?
No.
Okay. All right. Would you care to tell us more?
Well, the person who dealt with him no longer works at the company, so that might be a hint. I had somebody come in and actually work on a project that we funded internally that nobody inside the company knew was being funded internally, and I found somebody externally to run it, and it still came. We still delivered. We still built it. Everything's. It works well, like from an engineering standpoint. The product design was really good, but the project management was shit, to be honest. So it's the first person I fired in 3 years, so let him go.
Okay, so here's a challenge, Greg. And again, I'm really not saying this for Greg because it's really important to make everybody in the room think, including Greg. Do you think that it was just unlucky? Yeah, the present prospect had a bad experience, and they happened to speak with the one shitty employee. Or do you think the chances are that there are multiple either employees or parts in the process that aren't being executed how you, the company owner, want them to be?
I mean, if the question's directed also at me, then I actually had my suspicions about that team, which is why I did it. I mean, it wasn't just a random occurrence. It was one team that was not functioning as well as the others. That it had 1 or 2 complaints, and normally we just get praise. Normally everyone's like, "Wow, this is a great experience," and I wasn't getting that from one team, so that's why I did it.
Good for you. Now here's the interesting thing for everybody else in the room. Greg had his suspicions and they were proven to be true. So good on you, Greg, for following that through. But has anybody else, has anybody in this room had the experience of when you let somebody go for a perfectly, bland reason? It's not a big deal, it's just kind of not working, so it's nothing dramatic. But then subsequent to you firing them and letting them go, you uncover a whole host of shit that they were doing that you weren't even aware of.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so everybody's had that experience. So I'm glad that Greg got a sniff that, hey, I have my suspicions and they were proved to be true, so I acted. Good for you. But the thing that really screws you up are the ones where you thought they were a model employee, when really all they were doing is they were doing a really good job of covering their tracks. And sometimes, by the way, the employee is not malicious. They are doing the best that they can, but they've not been trained well enough, or actually the system's broken. But the problem is, as a root cause, the reason why we don't stop this is, I can't speak for you guys, but I know I've got an ego as big as this room, right? And my experience of most business owners is that it kind of goes, especially if you have any degree of success in business, is egos tend to get a little bit inflated at times, which means we become blind to where we're weak. We think our product's great, our staff are great, that's why we hire them. But actually, in the day-to-day execution, things fall down. So I would encourage not only everybody in this room to mystery shop consistently, I would actually explicitly tell your staff that you're doing it.
Whether you're doing it or not? To have you hang over your head?
It is going to occur. Hey, great, in order to help drive better results, we're going to play a fun game, or so I can reward you guys for doing a great job. We're going to have some mystery shoppers come on board, and whoever deals with you do it different ways, right? And whoever deals with their mystery shopper the best is going to get a $50 bonus, right? You can do it 1,000 different ways. So you can position it how you want, but the point is, I know for me, and it may not be true for you as an individual, but I know that, to use a metaphor, if I go to work out, I will work out much harder if I've got a trainer watching me than if I'm just working out by myself. Even if the trainer isn't giving technical advice, that just the fact that I know that somebody's watching me, I'm gonna put in more effort. So I believe, and I've had it tested out many times. It's very rare that I don't see it work, but obviously I encourage you to, if you don't think it would, I still encourage you to figure out how to try it and see if it works. That if the team know, it's very appropriately, they don't want to feel like they're being watched over and micromanaged. But if the team know that there's mystery shopping going on and you're paying attention to the feedback, what do you think happens to overall performance?
Increases.
My experience is you're exactly correct that it increases significantly. And then the fun bit is, in real terms, how much does it cost you to drive that increased performance?
Nothing.
And the answer is normally either nothing or it's pretty darn negligible. Because you're getting the single biggest expense item in every business in this room, with one exception, I would guess, based upon what you tell me about your business type at the start. Everybody's biggest expense category, or for the person who I suspect it might not be number one, but it'll be number two, is employees, is people, employees, contractors, etc. So if you're making that investment, let's say your payroll is 20 grand a month, okay? If you're making a 20 grand a month investment, good. You might not be able to, you may not want to reduce that investment, but can you get a better ROI? And the answer is yes. And the biggest leverage point is if you can make that workforce 10% more productive, whether that means less complaints, whether that means higher average order value, whether that means more referrals, more leads generated, more leads closed, right, or more repeat purchase, depending on the role. Okay, good. Your business is now churning out more cash, and how much did it cost you? None, or very little. But the reason why most business owners don't do it is we believe our own bullshit. We wrongly assume that the team are doing a great job. And I'm not saying get down on your team, and I'm not saying micromanage. I'm saying if you put a measure in place, you'll encourage them. They don't always wanting to do a shitty job, but everybody's a little bit sloppy at times. And if you put the right process in place, they will perform better. Yep. Which means you can acknowledge the hell out of them, because the company's getting better results. They feel good, you yield better rewards. Okay? So that's 1, 2, and 3. Effectively, when I'm evaluating a company, I'll say, what are the risks that I'm not seeing or that the current owner's not seeing? How can I quickly, easily minimize the likelihood of those risks happening, or the damage that will occur if they do happen? Step number 2, reduce expenses. I'll go through it with a fine-tooth comb. And by the way, my background is in marketing and sales. The first company that I sold for a proper company, when I say proper, I mean up for a 7-figure exit, was a marketing company. So why do you think I developed this rule? And it's to protect me from me. I am inclined to get all excited about growth and sales and then overspend. And my experience is I get excited, and generally it takes twice as long and costs twice as much as I thought, and the ROI is half as much as I thought. Right? So by basically forcing myself to be brutal on expenses and yield a much better return. Then there's the customer retention side. Everybody's focused on, I think I heard it expressed this way from you first, to give you credit where it's due. Everybody's focused on their next paycheck, i.e. the next customer, the next sale, when they should be more concerned about their last paycheck. Right? It's kind
That's
of like
brilliant. Yes, I said that.
Take care of customers. And I think that, and how that works, yeah. I think how that works is get mystery shopping. Like one little tactical thing, get mystery shopping. So then we're on to number 4. Okay? So we've covered the multiple side of the equation. We're now on the profit side of the equation. We said expenses is, so if you have to choose multiple or profit, most business owners look at profit first, and I would say look at the multiple first, the risk. Then, when it comes to driving profit, you can either increase sales or decrease expenses. Most business owners will look at driving sales first. Great. That means you should look at reducing unnecessary wasted costs, being more efficient. Now, when it comes to driving sales, getting new or keeping the ones you've got, I'm saying most people always just think about initially, how do I get more customers? Keep the ones you got by not losing them, by pissing them off, by having shitty service, or not managing the leads in the pipeline properly, because the person that answers the phone, Greg, doesn't care, or isn't well trained, or whatever the reason. Once you've done those 3, the 4th area that I'll look at in terms of bang for buck. So this list is not necessarily telling you what to do. I've just put in a hierarchy what typically gives me the best bang for buck in terms of my time, the time invested, or the money invested, or both. The best bang for buck, ROI, comes in this order. So we've done the first 3. Number 4 is saying, okay, great, we're now talking about driving additional sales. There's only 3 ways to increase sales. There's only 3. Anybody know this? This is J. Abraham 101. I should hope you guys know. There's only 3 ways. In fact, we will put Toph on the spot if nobody cares to join me, because I'm bored to tears with my English accent.
Yeah, get new customers, keep current customers, or sell more to current customers, get new customers, and I don't know what the third.
Raise your prices.
Raise your prices, yeah.
Okay, great. So almost there. Raising prices is an example of the second, but there's more than one way to do it. So you can get more customers. So if we own a supermarket, we can get more customers coming to our supermarket for the first time. That's number one. Number two is you can increase the average order value or the average transaction size. So in other words, in a supermarket, you can get them to put more expensive items in their trolley, but you could raise the prices. Or you could get them to put a more expensive version of that product in their trolley. Or you could get them to put more items in total in their trolley. So when they get the checkout, or in other words, when the invoice is raised, on average, the amount is higher. But I gave you 3 ways to do that. There's about 12 different ways you could do that. And then the third route of driving additional revenue, new invoices being raised, is increasing the average order frequency. In other words, get customers that have bought from your supermarket in the past to come back again in the future. So number one, new customers buy for the first time. Number two, increase average order value when they're already at the supermarket. And number three, get previous customers to come back to the supermarket again. Now it sounds obvious, but I'm curious, of those 3, 1, 2, and 3, which of those is the hardest to do?
Get new
Get
customers.
more customers, yeah.
Good. Do we all agree with that? Getting new customers?
Yes.
Good. Tell me why. You're correct, by the way. Tell me why.
Takes the longest and costs the most money. If you do have clients and you're taking good care of them and they like you, it's easy when you suggest new products and services to them. They're open to that suggestion.
You're exactly right. It does take the most time and cost the most money because they don't necessarily know you even exist. They don't necessarily like you or your brand or your positioning. And they may like what you're offering, but they don't trust you because they don't have enough confidence that it'll work, or they've not seen you before, they've not dealt with you before, so they're going to have less confidence in you because they're trying you for the first time or considering trying you for the first time. All right, good. So if number one, we all agree it's the hardest of the 3 to do. Now tell me, where do 95% of their business owners spend 95% of their time when it comes to increasing sales?
Getting new customers.
Getting new customers, yeah.
Getting new customers, which proves the point. Bang for buck, ROI on my time, which by the way is the most precious asset you've got. Without being too cliche, you can raise more money, right? Or there'll be more money in the future, but you've only got so much time and things you can focus your attention on. And we're all time poor if you're a business owner. So best bang for buck, or worst bang for buck, is trying to get new customers. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not stupid. I might be British, but I'm not stupid. I may sound it, but I'm not. I know you want to get new customers. But bang for buck, if I only had so much time to spend, that's not where I would start. So of the remaining 2 options, number 2 being increasing average order value, having them spend more when they're in the supermarket, or number 3, getting them to come back to the supermarket again in the future, which of those remaining 2 options, 2 or 3, is the easiest to do, typically?
2, increase. Raise prices. I would say transaction size.
Not necessarily.
How do you think increase, it's number 2, increase the average transaction size?
I'm not sure.
I'm going to go for that one.
Yeah.
Who thinks it's number 3, increase, get them to come back again in the future?
I think it's a function of the business you're in.
It will depend, but I'm offering this as a framework.
Oh, okay.
But if you think about this, okay, typically it'll be increasing the average order value, the transaction size. Why? Metaphorically, we've got a supermarket, remember? If they are already in the supermarket, in other words, they're already making the purchase, what it means is they know we exist. They have a need, which is why they're in our supermarket in the first place. they like us enough to be doing business with us. They may not reach the checkout yet, but they're putting items in the trolley, so they've got a need, which also means they've got a means to pay. Because somebody can like you all day long and love you, but if they are not capable of purchasing at your transaction size, right? Like a 20-year-old kid can want to buy a Ferrari all day long, can love a Ferrari, but if he's only making $10 an hour, I don't know what the minimum wage is in Florida, but if he's only making $10 an hour, he's going to love it more than anything on the planet. He's never buying it, or while he stays at that pay grade, he's not buying a damn Ferrari. Right? And so typically, persuading people that are already got the need, already in the supermarket, already buying out, already got their wallet out, is easier than getting somebody who loved us but bought from us 6 months ago to come back and make another purchase. It's easier to offer premium versions of the product. It's easier to give them a multi-buy discount. Again, it's what specifically you're going to do, Stanley, is going to be relevant to your industry. And I do concede that in certain industries, that might be difficult. But if you are dismissing it, I would encourage you to think more closely. Because is it because it's actually not difficult? Excuse me. Is it because it's actually difficult, or is it because you're just telling yourself it's difficult, but you've not thought hard enough about it, and you've not figured out the best way to do it?
No, it's a question of reframing it. It's a question of reframing the statement in this case, that's all. You're right, I just thought about it. You're right, because it's a reframing issue.
Hey Dan, can I add an example to this? So one of the things that we used to do in the KPI program that most of you I think probably depending on what level you got in at, we used to include 1 hour of mentoring with me each month for 6 months while you were in the program. We eventually pulled that out of the program, and it's a $1,500 upsell now. Now, we don't even push it that hard, but when people are signing up for the program, now they can sign up for 1 hour mentoring for 6 months, which is normally $300 an hour, but if they buy it up in advance, they get it for $1,500, or they buy 5 and they get the 6th free. We don't even push it that hard. We haven't sold that many, but when you think about how much less work I have to do now, because I'm not having to do all of those mentoring sessions once an hour for 6 months, plus when I am doing them, I'm now getting paid $200 an hour on that average to do it. So it's a great example of how we reduced. So I'm sharing this because I want you to think about, okay, well, what do I already sell? And is there something that I already sell for X amount of price? And I could pull that out and then have that be an upsell. And would I still have the same number of sales, even if I don't upsell that, but I'm working less? Our sales have gone up, my workload has gone down, and we have a cool upsell to offer. So just something to throw out there.
Yeah, so just to kind of high speed wrap this up, because I've got another appointment after speaking with you guys, and I want to see if you do have any questions, then great, I'll answer them, or if you don't have any questions because you're done with me, then great, I can get them. You can be done with me a little bit quicker and be back to over. The complete behind story, you go, okay, great. So you look at average order value as a way of driving additional revenue first. Then I will look at average order frequency, right? Because there's a lot of customers that would buy again, they're just not being nurtured and taken care of enough. And then when I come to driving new customers for the first time, which is number 6 on the list. So number 1.
What happened to 5?
What happened to 5?
No, we haven't, we're still on driving additional sales, aren't we?
We're still on number 4.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll clarify now. Number 1 is risk mitigation. Number 2 is reducing expenses. Number 3 is retaining existing customers, i.e. not pissing them off so they're going to leave. So it's not reducing a negative rather than adding a positive. Number 4 is driving average order value, transaction size. Number 5 is average order frequency.
Oh,
i.e.
gotcha.
nurturing customers, so repeat business. Okay? So these all begin with the letter R, so remember them. So risk mitigation, reducing expenses, retaining existing customers, raising average order value, repeat business, from the existing customer base. And then number 6, when it comes to driving new customers, the most profitable customer, okay, just think about this logically, is somebody who spends the most that costs the least. Right? So, okay, if I told you for every business in this room, based upon what I believe your business is, let's hope it's all being brief. If I told you, if we analyze your customer base, we're going to see an 80-20 rule, where if I told you there is a certain type of customer which, statistically speaking, is proven beyond any shadow of a doubt, spends more money, buys more quickly, has a higher retention rate, is less likely to refund, is less likely to complain, and is more likely to refer other customers to you. Statistically speaking, what is that lead source? Who are the best type of, who are the easiest customers to sell to?
Current customers.
That is true, but if they're new, so if a lead comes to you,
Referrals.
what kind of leads are the easiest to close?
Referrals.
Correct. Referrals, right? So if we all agree in principle at least that referrals are going to buy more quickly because they've got more trust, they spend more money because again they've got more trust typically, so they'll spend at a higher price point, and typically they're less likely to cancel because if they are unhappy momentarily, the fact that they know their friend who referred them is really happy with you makes them more likely to go, well, maybe it is me, or maybe I got unlucky, I'll give them another chance. And they're more likely to refer. If those customers are going to have the highest value and cost for lead, great. How many of you in this room have got a systemized process that you're really monitoring, tracking, and constantly trying to improve for optimizing the number of referrals you get? Great. And by the way, this is a much higher caliber room than the went to, half a dozen typical business owners. You're more switched on, you invest in your development, and yet still the majority haven't optimized for referrals. So all I'm suggesting to you is, I'm not telling you how to do it, what I'm encouraging you to think about is, how might you put something into place which drives a greater quantity and or quality of referrals? And then how could you measure that so you can put the system or the idea in place and you can track to see if it's working? And again, if you want to get specific on this, most business owners come to me and they're looking for growth and say, oh wow, Dan, you know what? I feel like I'm missing out on Facebook. And the reason they think that is they'll go, I'm not currently advertising on Facebook, but I see my competitors are, and they must be making millions. Help me. To which my response typically is, okay, great. The reason you want to advertise on Facebook is because you want to make more money, right? And they go, yeah. I go, but you want more sales or more profit? And they go, well, ultimately more profit. And I say, okay, great. So if you want to get more profit, you're not willing to look at the things that are that could screw your existing profit up that you're probably underestimating. You're not willing to look at the places where you're wasting money and being frivolous, and where you could save some money easy that would drop straight back to the bottom line. You're not willing to look about how your existing sales process is broken and how your sales reps are screwing up the leads because they're tardy and they don't follow up properly and they don't use your script. You're not willing to raise the average order value when people are already spending money by better suggesting that they buy a premium version of the product. You're not willing to go back to your existing customers and strive more, and you're not willing to get more referrals from your happy existing customers to get better quality new customers in the first place. You don't want to do any of that. What you want to do is take your money that you have got and risk it in advertising on a platform that's untested to you, with copy that's untested to you, because they've not done it before, and hope that you get the leads, then hope that you can nurture them and close them, and then hope that it works, and then hope you make more money. And then normally they go very quiet for a while. And that is the epitome of why most small business owners, unlike this room, because I know that you're listening to Togo, why most small business owners find it so damn hard when it comes to scaling their company and growing and building, maximizing the value of their business. Because they do it the exact opposite direction. They look at the hardest things first, that have the worst ROI, and they look at the best bang for buck factors last. And all I'm suggesting is that you ask yourself some new questions and consider it in those 6 steps, in that order, and that's how I approach it, to say, great, how do I maximize the profit and value of this company that I own? I'm going to, every quarter, review these 6 and go down, ask myself some better questions, and how do I move the needle on each of these 6 steps in that order.
Love it.
That's it.
Excellent.
So, over to you, Dover. Again, I don't know your schedule, etc. I don't have to shoot off just yet, so I'm good for 15 minutes. If I can be of any more value, or if I've already outstayed my welcome, feel free to kick me off and crack on with whatever you
Just to be respectful, you've got 12 minutes before your hard cutoff at 8 p.m. your time. So we got 12 minutes. We can ask him questions about anything you want or anything inside the context of this. My advice to you is don't let him go without taking up those 12 minutes, because he's a damn bright business person. So yeah, questions about anything. It could be related to those 6 things, or it could be related to anything in terms of multiples or financials or anything. I don't care. What questions do you guys have?
One question I have, this is Bill, and I've got the wholesale foods distribution company, and of course my highest expense category is cost of goods sold, as opposed to labor, where most others are in this room. And so that's one area that we focus on, and I think I've got a pretty good handle on managing expenses, because I watch them on a weekly basis and cut where I can. But it's obvious that cost of goods sold category, where it's in the 74.5% range, is our biggest opportunity. And but it's hard to manipulate that number because of how competitive our market is. Because there's 2 pieces to that. You know, we could alter that ratio by increasing our prices, and therefore the cost of goods incrementally goes down, or reduce what we're paying for what we're buying to resell. Where do you think that I could have the greatest impact?
Great question. Yeah, Bill, you're the person that I guess that the COGS would be your highest cost category. So you're absolutely correct. So acknowledging that in a heavy COGS business, which yours is 75%, that's where the game's won or lost. So it is about managing that ratio. And I don't know your business well enough specifically, but if you're in a commoditized industry, typically raising prices is not the answer. It's the opposite, because then you'll use your advantage. If you look at the Walmarts of this world, it's not easy to do. Or actually, a better example, if you look at the richest man on the planet in today's adjusted terms for inflation, the richest man in history in today's adjusted terms at the peak of his wealth, you'd be talking about John D. Rockefeller, who I believe in today's adjusted terms at the peak of his wealth would be worth about $300 or $400 billion in today's terms. And if you look about how he did it, and if you haven't read the biography Titan about it's fascinating, because Bill, it's all about COGS. At his peak, he manipulated. I'm not going to give an opinion on perhaps the legalities or the ethics or the morals of it. He had countless ways over time, because again, he wasn't always big, he started small, which basically allowed him to get to the point where he could sell oil, which is a commodity, right? He could sell oil at a profit for making an acceptable margin, which I don't remember, which was less than the competitor's cost of just extracting it from the ground.
Yeah. And you bring up a good point with the ethics and legality of buying and selling commodities, because the guys who are most successful, or I should say make the most profit in our business, are the ones who steal from everybody else in the chain of distribution by not necessarily paying for what they acquire to resell.
Yes.
And you know, maybe I'm not doing it right by trying to keep everything ethical, but you know, that in our business, it's that kind of an environment. You know, where you steal from the farmer, and then you cut the invoice from the shipper, the trucker who brings it across the country, and you know, everybody along the way that is supposed to get their fair share somehow gets cut or manipulated, and that's how the successful guys are making their money. I'd rather not do it that way, but is that the answer?
No, so I don't know, and I believe I'd be unable, Bill, and it would actually be unethical for me to give a direct tell you what to do, because I think giving a prescription without proper diagnosis is malpractice, right? So, but here's a few thoughts, a couple of thoughts for you to think about. So these are rhetorical questions. The first would be, actually the issue is not their ethics, the issue is what you believe about whether it's ethical or not, or what they're actually doing. I challenge that, and I'm not saying you're wrong, Bill, but I consider it. And then I still kind of go, okay, great, well really the question is, how do we reduce the costs? Because actually it might be that the reason why you think that they're unethical is because you don't see what they think. So some of them have probably got some ways which are entirely ethical, but because you're not aware of what they are, you only see the unethical things that they do and go, oh, it's all unethical. When actually, if you knew the specifics of how they're doing certain elements of it, which significantly reduce their costs and therefore radically drive their profitability, then you'd be ahead. And that's why the Rockefeller book, even though that's not the industry you're in, is fascinating, because there's so many ways in which he did it, whether it be growth to acquisition, controlling up and down the supply chain, a whole host that probably won't work, Bill, but there's probably one or two little gems that will spark an idea which go, oh, actually that could work. So, I mean, really, Bill, you're right, the money's going to be made or lost on that COGS margin. Which route do you go? The answer might be both. But I think you've got to explore both. It could be a bit of both, i.e. actually driving down the cost of goods in real terms, and or being able to position yourself so you are able to squeeze an extra couple of points at the top end. Because of course you're in the business where you get the spread between the cost of goods and the price you sell. So if you can just squeeze a couple of percent both directions, then all of a sudden, you know, you go from an 8% margin to a 12% margin. Well, good, you've got a 50% increase in profitability right there. How do you do it? Unfortunately, it's probably more than we've got time for now. But yeah, I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Cool. Any other questions? No?
I can ask a question, a quick question. What do you recommend, or do you have, I mean, I can think of 2 or 3 ways around this, but just for shits and giggles, if your customers really don't want you selling to anybody else other than them, they guard you jealously, and they monopolize your time, it's a really good way for you to get stuck in the small number of customers having, you know, increasing your risk by putting all your eggs in one basket, but it's also difficult to ask them for even something like a case study. You know, if you want to be able to sell to the customers and they're like, well, no, you're in a small industry, we don't want you selling to anybody else because everybody else is our competition. They're guarding you jealously. Do you have any advice about that kind of situation?
Wow, that's a great question.
I've got very strong advice. 2 words: deal flow. Right, so the reason why people get stuck in a position where they go, oh, you know, they get bent over, not very politically correct, but it's nearly 8 o'clock UK time, so I can get away with this this time in the UK. When people get bent over, metaphorically speaking, to meet the needs or the demands of the customer, is because we don't have better options. So I'm in favour of having a maximum range of options at all times, because ultimately, you know, will I be really dense and work exclusively with the customer? Yeah, but they're going to pay a premium. But what will prevent me from getting that premium, and therefore I get beaten to death in the negotiation, is if I haven't got other options. So to switch metaphor, but it's the same point, if I'm trying to sell a company, at the early stages, I'm trying to get as many people to the table as possible. Because supply and demand dictate price. That's economics 101. So great, I've got a limited supply of what my company can produce, or I've got one company for sale. I want to have as much demand as possible, because then the price will go up, and then you're gonna do better. You're gonna do better. An additional thought to jump back, but it's a much more out of the box way of answering your question, but also I think it was Bill, if I got your name wrong, Bill, earlier as well, is, are there other ways, sometimes looking completely differently, are there other ways of sweating the assets? So this probably won't work in your software development business, but might work in Bill's business, which is sometimes if the asset's not the particular, you know, and again, I don't mean this as well, it's not the particular product, the actual asset is the employees. So you've got really skilled coders. All right, well, how could they be leveraged differently? So a better example might be Bill. So if Bill's got all these trucks that are delivering all this food to all these places, okay, well, the trucks are an asset that the business uses to perform its services. Okay, great. Can those trucks be utilized differently? So like in the Rockefeller example, he basically ended up with rail lines, and I don't remember the story specifically, other than he would get the oil from the refinery to wherever it was being shipped to. But he figured out that the trains were coming back empty, and that was kind of stupid. And that's how he ended up in the railroad business. He figured out that if he could sell the route back, which was selling different products, you know, putting different products on the route back, because he was shipping oil out, but other companies were shipping different products that he didn't have back towards where the oil refineries were. All of a sudden, he can get paid for that asset, called the train, both directions. And I don't know whether in the software development that's your coders, or you've got proprietary software that you could license out, or you've got a particular marketing system which could be licensed out to somebody in a different geography. The we's competitive, but they're in a different geography, or they're not competitive, but they're in a comparable type business. I don't know whether the asset is Bill's trucks, or if the real asset is actually the most valuable thing that in Bill's business is he's got a sales process which is just beyond exceptional compared to the industry, but he's only geographically based in a one state. So he could go to people that do his business in 49 other states and sell that asset, which is called the IP, the sales script. So these are just different ways of thinking differently, of mining the asset of your business and making it more productive. So I know that was a very ambiguous and long way winded thing of answering your questions, but in brief, when it comes to customer density, no, I'm in favour of having more options. The more options you've got, the better result. You can have better choices. If you've got more options, you can have better choices, which means you're more likely to win.
Dan, it's 3:01, which means it's 8:01 your time, so I want to be conscious of your time. I know you've got to go. Thank you so much for sharing your ideas with us. Love these 6 steps to increasing the value of our business, which is exactly what the topic of this afternoon is all about, so it's perfect. I won't ask if there's any more questions because you don't have time to answer them anyway. But was this valuable for you guys?
Yeah.
Great job.
Cool.
Thank
All right,
you.
buddy. Thanks so much, man. I appreciate you.